Could high blood sugar affect your fertility, although the labs are normal? I've got that question sort of twice in the fertility circle, and one of the members, she's done all the tests. She's done an HSG, hysteroscopy, and she has no PCOS, no endo, and I think her cycles were even regular. She's done a few rounds of IUI, and she's struggling with infertility now for 3 years. And first of all, so sorry, because 3 years is a damn long time. And now those two members are actually wondering, can insulin resistance be the missing link? And also, can it be the missing link, although the labs are normal? So the short answer is definitely yes, because normal blood sugar tests might still look normal, but you could have underlying insulin resistance or inflammation issue that disrupts your hormones. And tests don't always pick this up, because traditional lab work looks at fasting glucose levels and your HbA1c, but those don't always tell the full story. So what you really need to see is how your body responds to sugar throughout the day. And sometimes certain foods can trigger blood sugar spikes just within your unique body. And one test you can do for this, and usually nobody really does it, is a glucose tolerance test with insulin levels, because this measures both your blood sugar and also how much insulin your body pumps out to manage it. Let me explain how insulin resistance damages your fertility. So I want you to imagine your body is like a house, and insulin is pretty much the key that unlocks the doors to let sugar or glucose from your blood into your cells. And this is where it then can be used as energy. Now, when everything is working fairly well, insulin does its job quietly in the background. But when you have insulin resistance, it's like your doors literally starts to jam and just don't open anymore. Your body has to make more and more insulin just to get the sugar inside there. And eventually, it's like you're yelling at the doors and jamming dozens of keys into the locks just to get them open, and it simply doesn't work because the doors are locked. And then that extra insulin is floating around in your blood, and it doesn't just affect your blood sugar levels, but also every other hormone. High insulin can tell your ovaries to make more testosterone that you actually don't need. And while women need a small amount of testosterone, too much can interfere with ovulation. And without regular ovulation, obviously, your chances of getting pregnant, drops, obviously. Second, insulin resistance can create hormonal imbalances between estrogen and progesterone. So even now, if you're ovulating, the quality of your ovulation may not be strong enough to produce progesterone. And you need progesterone to support implantation and your early pregnancy. That means even if the egg and the sperm meet and your body does this fertilization, it might not be ready to hold the pregnancy. Then number 3 on the list is insulin resistance is tightly linked to inflammation. And we are not talking about the kind you feel like, I don't know, the sore throat or something like this. Inflammation can be silent and chronic, and then it can interfere with egg quality. And it disrupts the communication between your brain and your ovaries. And that can even make your uterine lining just less receptive for an embryo trying to implant. And number 4, even if you have normal cycles and normal hormones on paper, insulin resistance can reduce egg quality and also mitochondrial function. And all of this is crucial, obviously, for a healthy embryo and a successful pregnancy. So insulin resistance is like background noise in your body. And it may not show up in obvious ways on your test, but it can throw out all hormonal signals. Now, let me give you some signs and symptoms your body gives you when you are insulin resistant. although it doesn't show you on your blood work. And I was insulin resistant and I had regular cycles as well. But now one of the symptoms you may have, you feel really tired and foggy after meals, especially when they're carbohydrate high. And if you also have intense cravings for sugar and carbohydrates, even if you're not hungry, that's another sign. If you get hangry or shaky, that's another really good sign. If you get shaky a lot when you have been out of a meal for a long time, this is a sign that your blood sugar levels drop very, very quickly, and that shouldn't be the case. Another sign is if you have darkened skin around your neck or your armpits or your groin, that's another sign. And if you struggle with pimples, acne, especially around here, or unusual hair growth here, that's another sign. And now I want to show you something that is another sign, but you can actually measure it, really, really measure it. So that's your waist to hip ratio. And the waist to hip ratio is exactly what I'm saying is. So what you measure is you measure your waist around the smallest part above your belly button, so where your waist is. Mine sits unfortunately fairly high, and so this is what you measure. And then you measure your hips, the widest part of your hips. You measure that too, and then you divide it. So let's say your waist is 80 centimeters and your hips are 95 centimeters, and you say 80 divided by 90, and the number you get there is a really good indication for if you have insulin resistance or not. What I'm going to do is, instead of just saying it right now and you have to write it down, I'll put this below this video and you can check for yourself and see what it is. It's not fully black and white, but everything above 0.85 is actually a fairly clear sign, especially if you have that plus other signs on top of this. Yeah. So if you figure out you're insulin resistant, then the good news is, first of all, that the program addresses pretty much every single aspect of it. So do what I tell you to do in there step by step. The most important part is that you're eating protein, enough protein, but also fat. Protein and fat combined will slow down the glucose spike. So that's one thing. But also, as more fiber you eat in your diet, as less you get this insulin spike. You can't avoid it altogether, and that is all good. That is fine. It's just about slowing it down. And it also doesn't mean you can't have an insulin or glucose spike at all. It just means, again, consistency is a key, not perfection. So the majority of the time, you're going to make sure to eat protein and fat to each and every single meal, and as much fiber as you can get into your diet, as better it is. Another really good trick to get those insulin levels down is go for a 10-minute walk, a brisk walk, don't fall asleep, a brisk walk after your meal. And especially after lunch and dinner, when you tend actually not to move, this can really help. If you can't go for a walk, 10 minutes, jump up and down, dance, do whatever, which is good for you anyway, because it's good for your lymphatic system. And you might not be in that program yet where we talk about lymphatic system, but that's really good too. So if you can actually jump up and down or dance, that's really good too. So just moving, that helps a lot. Another trick is, and I do find that disgusting, but it actually works. There's science behind it right now. Research really shows that if you dilute a tablespoon of apple cider vinegar into your water before your meal, that can actually reduce the spike after your meal. So that might be another option you want to consider. However, that is just a simple trick. On top of it, protein, And fiber are your best friends when it comes to lowering insulin resistance. And don't be fooled, you can cure that fully and completely. So if somebody says, oh, you can't reverse it, yes, you can. You can. And the bad news, if your body is prone to things like this, like mine is, oh well, it's a lifelong exercise. But one day at a time, always one day at a time. Concentrate on what you can do today. And even if that's too long, what can you do now?